Thanks for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we profile those who have overcome or are in the process of overcoming any sort of life topic. We have three objectives with this podcast series. Our first is we want you to know that you are not alone in whatever life encounter you are experiencing, that we're here with you. We want to help work you through whatever it is that you are encountering that may seem to be too difficult at the time to be able to work through. Our second objective is to help you develop the resolve that there are multiple factors, there are multiple options or solutions to any life dilemma you're experiencing. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you are experiencing something that is a result of a decision you made in the past, such that if you had a life redo, you would make a different decision, we want to help you analyze all of the facts and factors that are involved in making a very informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty. Today we feature the third episode of Donna Tashjian, where she talks about emotions. Emotions as relates to feelings, as relates to thoughts, and just who we are. Marty, what are some takeaways that our listeners can gain from this podcast?
Ron, I really enjoyed this podcast on emotions. Emotions can be a sensitive thing to talk about, can be kind of hard to talk about, and Donna does such a great job of explaining our emotions. She explains it in a way that our emotions take us down or take us up. It's how we deal with them. And she teaches and talks to you about how you can come on the other side of your emotions, on the upside.
Emotions, are they real? How do we handle emotions? Let's listen together. It's very insightful. Donna, thank you for joining us again. We are with Donna Tashjian. We want to encourage you to listen to episodes 1 and 2 to learn of Donna's background, where some people might say she experienced a traumatic event early in life and a part of her childhood was taken away, but she has chosen to use her life experience to help others through being an ordained minister, but also coaching, as she is dedicating her life to helping advance people. Donna, thank you for joining us, and talk to us about emotions. As our listeners have hopefully listened to your life story up to this point, it would seem you have experienced a whole range of life emotions, but you're able to, what would seem, categorize or at least think of your emotions in a positive way. Can you tell us how you have worked through various life experiences?
Well, I love to tell stories, so I will have some stories in the midst of all of this, but I call this episode, when I'm teaching my live workshops, emotions, emotions, emotions. We have them. And we sometimes pretend we don't have them. We're not honest about them, but that was last episode. But having to learn to process emotions, and a lot of times we don't feel like that we're really processing them very well. But when emotions are so strong and real, we begin to feel as if we are equal to our emotions. I am sad. I am depressed. I am angry. I am hopeless. Those statements is not I feel sad, I feel depressed, I feel angry, I feel hopeless. It says I am. And a lot of times when we're talking about that, especially depression and anxiety, we equate who we are to how we feel, which means it's a roller coaster ride because we feel a lot of stuff. And one of the things I want to highlight as I begin to talk about emotions is that you are bigger than your emotions. You are a spirit having a human experience. You are a spirit living in a body. And so you are bigger than your emotions. And I want you first, that's the first thing I really want you to think about and grasp, is that it's not an equal sign. It's I feel something. And as most of us know, the feelings are subject to change, depending upon circumstances in our life. So have you ever experienced a dream that felt so real that when you woke up, your heart was racing? It might have been a child, me, when my teenagers, having a dream. We never had positive dreams. They were always in a ditch or hurt or something. But you were just sure something awful had happened. Your heart's beating, you may be agitated. But the thing is that most of those things weren't even really real. But our emotions and our body reacted as if it was truth. So one of the biggest mistakes I learned is when we're dealing with difficult feelings is treating them as if they're always true. If you listened to my first interview with Ron, you understood that I had a lot of shame and that I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel anybody would ever love me. But those were just emotions. They were not truth. And a lot of times we equate our emotions. If you've ever had a bad relationship and rejected, we feel not worthy. We feel unlovable. And we equate the emotions as truth. When in truth, the real truth is that somebody's opinion. Somebody's opinion of you does not mean that it's truth. It's an opinion, and everybody has one. Feelings are data that we must filter through our reasoning, our truth. And sometimes our filters get really clogged, and so we're not able to see clearly. I like to imagine feelings as an indicator light on a dashboard. Your car, it's in your car. It says, okay, your tire pressure's low. You need to check your oil. It's an indication of something that needs attention, but it doesn't mean that there's something fundamentally wrong with the car. It's the same for us. We feel angry. We feel rejection. We feel hurt. It's something that needs attention. It's something that we need to process, not stuff down inside, but it isn't equal to your value. Thoughts about that?
Yes. Talk to us a little bit more about feelings and emotion. I dealt with a person one time who's just declared, my feelings are never wrong. And that person is a very emotional type person who I consider allows her feelings to affect who she is. But the statement was, my feelings are never wrong. And do you equate feelings and emotions, and can you say very possibly what you're feeling is not right based on your statement?
I never say anybody's feelings are wrong, but there's a difference because you feel them. You feel angry, and so there's nothing wrong with the feeling of anger. It's not right or wrong. You feel it. Where we get slipped up is when we equate that with who we are. That's the difference I'm trying to make, is you feel hurt. You feel somebody doesn't like you. Well, that may be true, but you feel it. So it's not right or wrong in the respect of someone's wrong, but it isn't always the truth. If somebody doesn't like you and you feel that and you're right, they don't like you, it doesn't mean that equates to your value. That's the kind of point I'm trying to make, because we feel things. I mean, God feels. I mean, where did we get our emotions? He feels things, all kinds of emotions. But when we let those feelings make us make mistakes, now I would love to ask that woman that you're mentioning is did your right feelings ever lead you to make a mistake? Because a lot of times the feelings, when we follow them as truth, equating to who I am, peer pressure is a feeling. It's legitimate. Somebody's pressuring you to do things that you don't think you should do or don't want to do, but you do them. So we're not rejected. The problem with emotions is that we make choices that create my value. And if I get my value from my emotions, I'm going to be pretty seasick on that roller coaster ride. Does that make sense?
It does. Let me just take this expression of, I feel this person doesn't like me. And as you said, Donna, you're right. That person does not like me. But would the wrong feelings, the wrong emotions take us in a direction so far as to say, I'm not a likable person, and would you say, no, you've crossed the line there. You're right that person doesn't like you, but that does not mean you're not a likable person. Am I assimilating you correctly?
Yeah, I would say it a little bit different, but yes, that's basically the truth, is that it's making the decision that someone's opinion equals my value. And whenever I make somebody else's opinion, even the best person, husband and wife, there are days you really don't like each other. And I've been married 38 years, and I have a right to say that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have value just because he's irritated with me today. And so that's what I'm talking about, is when I do it to my value. Now, we can talk about how to actually process those emotions, because that's really the key, is that you feel rejection. What do you do with rejection? And how do we process when we feel, because our basis needs is to feel loved and belonging. And when those are compromised, we sometimes make interesting decisions. But when we base everything on remember, when your interpretations begin to change, then our emotions also begin to change. So as I begin, let me say it this way, when I begin to learn what my value really is, I can let my husband have a bad day and it doesn't hurt me anymore. Because he's a grump doesn't mean I did something wrong and there's something wrong with me. And when we equate and begin to learn who I really am, the purpose, who I really am, the value that God has placed on my life, I don't equate it, and my emotions then begin to calm down. When I notice someone today rejecting me, my thought today is, God, I wonder what's hurting them. But that didn't always the case. Somebody rejected me in the past. I stayed in bed for a week, crying, feeling unworthy and unwanted. And as we begin to learn our value then, our emotions calm down. We're beginning to being others with empathy and compassion. Does that make sense?
It does. Donna, I think you've said something that's extremely important here that I have learned from some people, and it's how we process statements that we hear from other people. Eleanor Roosevelt said, and I'm going to paraphrase what I remember her saying, you'll never make me feel bad about myself, depending on what you say about me, unless I choose to believe it. Jeremiah 29:11 says that I know the plans you have for me.
I have for you.
I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. If we, I think, Donna, can have the attitude that, no, God loves me, I'm made for a very specific purpose, and while I may have faults, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but it's the way I process statements, and if I can have a positive attitude about it, from God's perspective, hopefully I can categorize and process those statements in a way that does not allow me to think less of myself. Am I stating that correctly?
Yes. One really surefire way to handle and process emotions effectively is observing where we're focusing. And because it's the example I use, because my husband's having a bad day, let's use that example, and I'm focusing on him being unhappy with me, instead of focusing, when I do that, then I feel unworthy, unloved, whatever, those kind of negative emotions. But when I choose to focus on how can I be loving to him, even if he is having a bad day, instead of making it about me, I make it about him, it changes the way we emotions, because emotions will follow where you focus. What you focus on, you empower. What you amplify, whatever you magnify, you amplify. So whatever you give your attention to becomes bigger. And that's why emotions can become a roller coaster of different emotions. If I go back to my original story I shared in podcast 1, episode 1, then I felt shame and not worthy and a whole host of other things, anger, a lot of things. But as I began to focus on going forward and not equating somebody's opinion to my value, I began to make better decisions. I didn't always make great ones, but I began to make better decisions.
Let me ask you this. In our seeming social media world, and I use the expression frequently, a faceless, voiceless environment, there's some who say if I see a statement, I can pull out my pearl-handled pistols figuratively, and I can hammer the keyboard, and I can ratchet this up, faceless, voiceless, but I can elevate this thing to whatever degree I want because my purpose is to win, however you define win. But I think how I'm processing what you're saying is that if we're able to process statements correctly and have our focus on the other person and not on the negative aspect, and again, I'm referring now to we tend to become that on which we focus, and if we focus on negative, we'll maybe go further negative with it. But I want to make sure that I'm processing correctly what you're saying, that if we choose to have the mindset that I'm going to try to focus on the positive, that's how we will end up establishing the right direction. Am I saying it the way you would, or at least thinking partly the way you would?
Yeah, I often say, I heard a story once of a guy who said, I win every argument with my wife. And he paused, and he said, well, in my own mind, I do.
Yes.
And so we have to resist the urge to accelerate those negative emotional spirals that happen when how many of us have had an argument that we replayed it over in our mind? If I'd have said that, I'd have won. If I'd have said this and they said that, then I would have said this. And it's like we're trying to one-up us, or we rehash some negative experience that's happened and what people said to us, and we get in this negative spiral of when we talk and think about our mistakes, our setbacks, our disappointments, and we go over them and over them. Remember, focus creates feelings. So the quickest way to get into a negative place, a depressed place, is to continue to think about everything you ever messed up on in your life. On the flip side of that coin, when we begin to choose to focus on the good things in our life, because in everything in our life, there's something we can be thankful for. And so I have 4 ways to change my focus so then I create better feelings. Want to know what they are?
Please do.
Number 1 is gratitude. It's finding something to be thankful for. In every situation, it's possible to be thankful for. And if we look for it, we will find more. As we begin to, it is amplified when we look for gratitude. Number 2, be careful with the words you use about others and especially yourself. What kind of self-talk do you have? What do you say about yourself? Are you repeating those negative words that somebody spoke about you? Are you choosing different words? The affirmations, the declarations, the things that you say about yourself will change your brain and therefore change your focus and change your emotions. Number 3 of changing your focus is self-care. Do something good for you that makes you feel better. One of my favorite is spending time with my God. I love to read. Jazz music and a cup of tea, and I'm happy. What helps you rejuvenate? Getting out in nature, taking walks, looking at the clouds, laying on the ground, watching the clouds. What inspires you? And the 4th one is inspiration, is do things, focus, give something that's going to build you up, encourage you. If people have been tearing you down, fight back with building yourself up again. Inspirational books, podcasts, music. There's lots of resources that are now available that didn't used to be available to be able to help you build up your focus, because as you do this, your emotions won't feel like a roller coaster. It'll be a nice, smooth ride as opposed to getting seasick. I'm not a fan of roller coasters. I don't know if you noticed that. So that's my 4 things for helping that.
No, that's great. I think one of the things you're saying, and we have found the axiom to be true, you will almost always find what you're looking for. If you're looking for positive, you'll find it, and the converse is true as well. So the 4 ways that we can help our attitude, gratitude, words, self-talk, spending time with God, self-care, and inspiration. And as we surround ourselves with people who have those kind of values, is it true that that tends to become, let's just use the word contagious, that as we are with positive thinking people, that helps to affirm positive thinking, that type thing. Is that true?
The saying I've heard is that you are like the 5 people you surround yourself with. And that could be in person, that can be podcasts, that can be books you read. It's like, who is speaking into your life? And who are you truly listening to? I want you to remember, focus creates feelings. Emotions are subject to change, and you are more than your emotions.
That's very well said. Not to focus on Marty and me, but we've been married 52 years. I've known Marty for 55 years. And I frequently have to remind myself, is it more important to be right or to have a relationship? And
it's true.
So you may discern, and our listeners may discern, my personality is one that, yes, I do like to be right. And so I have to just take a time out and just say, what those R's is more important, to be right or to have a relationship. Donna, thank you for this time, that as we assess our emotions, where are we with this, and determine that on which we choose to focus.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts about feelings, emotions, as relates to our true identity, our values? Have you experienced a time when your feelings are definitely wrong, they're erroneous, they led to feelings that were not right, that you had to take time to just stop, review who you are, what you're about? I know that there are times when we feel overwhelmed, overstressed, over whatever, that perhaps our emotions and our feelings are most unreliable. Let me know your thoughts. Have you ever dealt with a situation where you just had to take a time out, just withdraw for whatever period of time to reset your emotions and your feelings? Engage with us. Let us know how you have overcome that. Let us know how you have worked with anyone else to help them overcome any feelings that are not right. Donna talks about 4 quadrants of gratitude, our self-talk, self-care, time with God, and inspiration. She also talks about a time of, she didn't use the terms, but a time of refresh and recharge. For her, talking with God and listening to jazz is an opportunity for her to refresh, recharge, and I'm going to use that as a mental health break. Mental health is not necessarily in this context, and it's certainly not a clinical term, but rather it's just a time to unload, relax, reset, and get a better perspective of the world events, who we are, what's happening in our life. And if we are overstressed with pressure, with world events, whatever it may be, it's a time to just reset, relax, recharge, and be able to rethink. Let's engage. How do you overcome any feelings of inferiority, any feelings that are not right, those emotions that accompany that, and how do you overcome? How do you help others to overcome and reset? Let's engage. Call me at Ron Cooper, 410-586-1875, or send me an email, ron@thecooperculture.com or marty@thecooperculture.com. You can also contact Donna at the website listed in the description. Let's engage with each other. Let's learn from each other through our experiences. Let's do what we can to advance others through our life experience. The Cooper Culture is sponsoring this podcast series, and we want to do what we can to advance people, to help everyone overcome any life encounter that we, as possibly you, have encountered various things in our life that are not exactly true. We've allowed some circumstances, stress, and the like to get in the way of clear thinking. Coaching. Coaching is a fine art of which Marty and I are each certified. Donna is certified. We can help you through coaching to overcome anything that is keeping you from operating at your peak God-designed performance. Call us and we will have a complimentary session of coaching to help you determine just how we can best help advance you to reach your best performance, that God-given level of your performance for which you were designed. We look forward to working with you. Let's talk together, let's engage, and let's advance each other.